some things you should know before you become a fisherman is it's a kind of repetitive job. You usually do the same thing, but there can become, really unexpected challenges you have to face. And in this line of work, you have to be sometimes, creative and really responsible in a way of thinking. You can't just ignore problems. You have to be on top of everything. And you have to know also if you become really, really seasick, because seasickness and working at sea is not a good combo. But some people can do it and some people don't. But yeah, working as a fisherman is really different hours from a normal job, because you can maybe work really much for a short period of time, and then for another period of time you don't work at all. So it's like you have to be intuitive in your work. You have to try to plan everything out, because no day is the same and the weather can change a lot, so you always have to try to go out as much as you can. The fishing techniques we use on this boat is called reel jigging. It's basically like a reel on a fishing rod, but we have these big machines that do it for us, and we only have to pull the fish up on the boat. Usually on a boat like this, every time you go out and see a fish, you want at least 2 tons. Most people would accept that as a good day, but this boat can take up to 5 tons, so you always want to try to go for that, but realistically that happens really, really rarely. But I think most fishermen will be really, really happy about getting 2 tons every time. And yeah, seasickness is a thing that a lot of people have, but some people just never get seasick and can go whenever they want. Unfortunately, it's not for me, but yeah, most of the time I'm not seasick, but sometimes it can happen. Some people use a band-aid that you put on the neck, and it slowly releases a chemical in your system that makes you a little bit slower, so it kind of numbs the part of your brain that gets you seasick. Some people take a pill or something. I use a pill from Spain that is illegal in Iceland, but it works for me because in Icelandic, seasickness pills cannot contain caffeine. It can only, numb you. But the pills from Spain and some other countries, they numb you, but they also have a little bit of caffeine, so it kind of, balances out. Fishing in Iceland, I don't think it's more difficult than other countries specifically. I think it's pretty much the same, but for a boat like this, a small boat, you can really only fish in the spring, summer, and a little bit of the before autumn. But in the winter, when there's a lot of ice and stuff like that, and the weather is pretty much always bad, you can't really do anything. So boats like this, we only maybe are active if we're lucky for half the year. We start in May, it depends on the weather and stuff like that, but we try to start in May, April, and we usually go out September, maybe October, but like I said, it's different, situations, and every year it can be different. Yeah, sometimes at sea you can get yourself into a crisis situation. Luckily, how things are now, and maybe 30-40 years ago, things are a lot different, and it's much more safer now to go at sea than it was. Especially when my father started this boat, he was 18, and his 2 brothers were 15 and 12 at that time. And the first time my father ever went at sea, he was 18 and his brother 15, and they went out, and they had none of this. Didn't have a computer. They didn't, the regulations were just really different. Like in the old days when people were going out on rowing boats, people didn't give them much food because it was a high chance they would die out at sea, and then the food would be wasted, So they took bare minimal food, and that was really different from how things are now. And basically, the coastal guard at all times, they can see where you are. And in the emergency boat, there's a transmitter that gets activated if it's blown up. So if the boat sinks and you're in an emergency boat just out at sea, they should always find you. But still, accidents happen, and the boat can start leaking or engine failure or whatever. But the coastal guard is really active in keeping watch on all the boats. So kind of whatever happens, you should always be fine nowadays. But myself, my engine has broken 2 times, and I've been drawn to land on a rope 2 times this summer. Yeah, that was not fun, and it can be really difficult to have a good mindset when something bad happens. But you just have to remember to try to be rational and do the things you've been taught to do and try to do them correctly. But most of the time everything should be fine. This summer, a boat out at sea pretty close to me, like he was 3 miles from me, he started leaking on the inside. And luckily there was a big boat, longliner boat, really close to him, who had a sea pump with him that he could put on the boat, and so he could constantly pump seawater out of the boat, so he could make it to land. If it wasn't for that, the boat would have probably sunk, but the man had, he would always been saved at the end. But losing a boat out at sea, it's really costly, so it was really lucky that the boat was near him at the time. But yeah, he went home to the harbor, he fixed it, and went back on the sea the next day. So yeah, most fishermen are really hard and stubborn, and yeah, most of them know exactly how to deal with things. And yeah, like I said, the spring in Icelandic is probably the best time to fish on these type of boats. Fishing is like really the bone back of Icelandic culture, because for maybe just in the start of society here, fishing was really major drive in economy here in Iceland, because it was really difficult to grow crop, and back in the day meat and such things it was really difficult to grow them at a big scale. So fishing was like really important for this culture, both for food, jobs, and just sustainability. Every part of the fish back in the day was used in something. You could make dry fish, harðfiskur, it's called in Iceland. It's where you hang up a fish and it gets really dry, and nowadays it's an Icelandic delicacy to eat it, and really a lot of people like it. But that was just a common way of doing things back in the day, because there were no freezers, there were no stuff to keep things fresh, so they had to find ways to handle the fish so that it could be used at a later time and eaten. But yeah, nowadays fishing isn't as important as it was, but it's still like really important, because like it gives many high-paying jobs and stuff like that. People with no education or anything like that can get a pretty high-paid job on a ship just because they're hardworking. some people, you know, when they maybe accidentally, you know, have a baby or something like that and need more money, they can just go at sea, and you know, it's not a fun job, but it's just something some people gotta do to survive, and it's really good to have that option for some people. But yeah, also like fish farming has become a lot more important, especially in small towns like this, because obviously not everyone has a boat they can go out and fish on, and it's really good for society. But yeah, like Iceland really is, fishing or just fish in general is really, really important to Icelandic culture. And you know, a lot of money is being made, you know, selling fish to Britain and Spain and Portugal and stuff like that. Especially in Britain, you know, fish and chips. Most of the fish in fish and chips places in England is from Iceland. So yeah, that's really cool. I think that is, you know, it keeps that going. Yeah, sustainability of fishing in Iceland is, according to the government, the stock for fish in Iceland is 1 million tons per year of all the fishes that are hunted in Iceland. And the quota for all the ships together in Iceland is only 200,000 tons. So you can see we're only, or according to the government, we're only fishing 1/8 of the stock every year. So the plan is that the stock is always supposed to be growing. You know, you're never supposed to take too much of the stock that it's declining. So you don't wanna, you know, clear the resource. You know, you always want to have a big and good stock that delivers fish every year. But you know, there's some questions about how the government figures it out, you know, how much stock there is around Iceland every year. There has been a bit of criticism how they do it, because they only fish in the same spot every year for 2 days, and they figure out or calculate the stock only according to that across the whole country. So like there could be really good fish maybe 2 miles longer, but they will not go there. They will always fish on the same spot every year. But you know, we have to trust in our government that they know what they're doing and are keeping the stock good and healthy. So yeah, we hope that. So yeah, the sustainability in fishing is really, really important. The future of fishing in Iceland will probably, in my opinion, take a little bit of a turn in the next maybe 10-20 years, because like nowadays 1 ton of Icelandic quota of cod, for example, nowadays it costs 2.5 million for just 1 ton, and the value you get for 1 ton every year is maybe about 300 to 400,000. So it's really difficult for people to start this type of fishing. So you kind of get the sense of the government is trying to eliminate most of the small fishing boats, so there will only be like the big ones, you know. And I understand kind of that way of thinking, because like this many small fishing boats, you know, it is a little bit of trouble, you know, for the government and society, because you know, everyone can, with a license and a boat, you know, can go outside, and it can't be you know, you can't be an idiot, but you can still go. But in the big ships, you know, the organization is really, you know, organized, and you know, they're really planned, and you know, every big ship there's you know, a special person who maintains the ship, you know, make sure it never breaks and all of that. So it's really easier for the government if there were only couple big boats than many small ones. So yeah, like I said, you get the sense that they're trying to push this type of fishing away and going more for like the big ones. But at the same time, they have started a program called coastal fishing, where you can only fish 4 days a week, 12 days a month, and you can only fish to 770 kilos of cod every day. But then there's no quota, you know, there's just a limit, and you can do this for maybe 2 months of the year. So it's not just, you know, it's not a full-time job for the year, you know. It's really difficult to live on that for the whole year. So in that type of fishing, you know, there's a lot of, you know, only fishing enthusiasts, you know, people who look at that like kind of a hobby. But like this kind of fishing is just work, you know. My father works this half time a year, and the other half of the year he doesn't work at anything else, you know. He only works at maybe maintenance of the boat and something to do with the business, but he doesn't go to another job, you know. It's just this. But yeah, like technology is always getting better, and some people have developed techniques in this type of fishing where you don't even have to pull the fish in. There's a machine like that pulls the fish on top of the boat, so you only have to debled it. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's when you cut the fish here so the blood comes out, so the meat will stay good for longer. But yeah, if maybe that technology will become really good and you can go to many type of fishing with that will be really good. But yeah, you kind of get the sense that this type of fishing is kind of trying to push it to the side. But yeah, you will just see how it goes, and hopefully I can work this for a couple more years longer.